Welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And we have Brooke with us today. She is our children's pastor here at Bridgeway. So Brooke, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, I'm Brooke. And like Abby said, I took on the children's pastor role here in February. My husband, Matt, and I have attended church here for about the last 4 years. We have a daughter who will be 3 in July. Her name's Blair. And we have a little baby boy on the way coming in July as well, who we do not have a name for yet. So name suggestions in the comments box, please.
Yes. Send them in.
Always scary.
So we decided to do a woman's takeover for the podcast today.
Joel didn't even know, and so we'll see how this goes.
Surprise!
Yep. So we'll jump in. Our first question is, if you had to teach a college class, what do you think you could teach with not much preparation time?
So are we talking like one class or an entire semester's worth of classes?
Like a semester. Like you're told, hey, you need to teach this class for the semester. We're paying you $1 million.
Whoa.
Do it now.
Okay, because I was thinking, I'm like, well, I could talk about how, like, I think cereal should be considered a soup for one class, but I think after that, it would probably go really off the rails. But an entire semester, I could talk about books. I mean, I've read 43 books so far this year, you guys, which I feel is pretty good. It's not even June yet.
I don't know if I've read 43 books in my life, so I'm pretty impressed.
Before about 2 years ago, I would have said the same thing. So I could talk about that. I could probably spend a semester talking about Indiana wineries. And if you call yourself a winery and all you have is a tasting room, just get out of here. But I don't know. Ultimately, I think maybe the class should be about like, I don't know, maybe like hot takes I have or that people have, like that the pink Starburst is the worst one in the pack.
Huh?
I don't even come at me. It's not a contest. How I'm still mad at Apple for putting that U2 album on my phone several years ago. Get out of here. So I just think, maybe it's just a class on hot takes.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. That's really applicable to everyday life.
I mean, you got to be able to have conversations with people.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
College age students would love that.
Mm-hmm.
They would.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more of a debate class then.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
You could do that for sure.
I like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now we've worked it out, so just call me when you need me to.
I feel like for $1 million, Abby said I could learn about anything real quick.
For sure. Or
to teach a class.
Exactly. What about you, Brooke?
Well, I'm just thinking about how a lot of colleges have come out recently saying like they're teaching classes on Taylor Swift and her business strategies and or like her music and like just, I think that's so amazing. So I feel like maybe I could talk about Taylor Swift for probably a whole semester.
I love that.
think so, probably too.
Yeah, I think I could probably do that.
She's got so many albums. Even if you did one a class period.
Yeah, and I am an OG Swiftie, so take me back to 2006 with the self-titled album. I can tell you all the things.
Yeah. Yes. And then Allison can be your sub whenever you're sick.
I will. That's perfect. Yes, we've worked it all out.
What are we doing here?
See you next time. Bye. What about you, Abby?
For me, I think it would just be like an audio production course or something like that. Like that's something I was really good at in college. I took a lot of those courses and I feel like I'm still doing that stuff. I know how to do it. We are. Yeah. So something like that. Yeah. I took a TV course. I was not good at that. Like lighting, failed that. But anything audio, I can do that.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So our first topic today is a People article. It's titled, NFL says they do not agree with Harrison Butker's views in graduation speech and are committed to inclusion. Harrison Butker, kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, gave the commencement speech at Benedictine College on Saturday, May 11th. In his speech, he took aim at the LGBTQ+ community, working women, abortion rights, and more, drawing heavy criticism. He told the women in the audience that they have had the most diabolical lies told to them, and that they will be much happier when they focus on starting a family instead of starting their careers. Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity, Jonathan being the NFL's senior vice president and chief diversity and inclusion officer, told People in a written statement. His views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. So, we will link the whole speech or a way that you can watch it or read it. But what did you guys think of this speech?
I have a lot of thoughts. Sometimes I am not exactly sure where to start in the conversation because, is it his take on women, his take on Catholic bishops, COVID-19, the LGBTQ plus community, euthanasia, abortion? Like, there was a lot packed into that 20 minutes. Like, yeah. It doesn't seem like 20 minutes is a long time, but he really... He made the most of the time he was given, I'll just say that. But I guess for starters, for me, like as someone who didn't grow up, like dreaming of their, wedding day, and I didn't even initially want children, I think he makes some big leaps in assuming that, like he said in the speech, and again, Abby said, we'll drop it in the show notes, but he says the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. And I just think that is such a big leap to assume about these women who have spent the last 4 or however many years working to obtain their degrees. Because maybe they're most excited about having kids and being wives, but I feel like if that were maybe the case, they would have just saved thousands of dollars and bypassed all the work that they put in. And I'm not saying that you can't have both because clearly we are working and also moms, Brooke and I, at this point. And so it's, I don't know. It's just such a leap, I guess. But, and if they do want both, like that is amazing. And not everyone has the ability to stay home and be homemakers or stay-at-home moms. I was unemployed for one summer, and it didn't even take me about 2 weeks to realize that being a stay-at-home mom was not it for me. Yeah. Like, my kids and I, we both needed breaks from each other. Like, there was just... It just wasn't going to be for me. I was always going to work and then also be a mom. And I mean, I know he praised his wife who, he said loves being a stay-at-home mom, and kudos to her. And for him, for giving her a shout out, I love that for her. But also not everybody has like the ability to, not everybody's husband is a professional NFL player. Yeah, I was going to say. They can afford to stay home.
Not everyone has a husband that makes $4 million for kicking a ball.
Most households, I would say, are dual income, But, if you can and you want to, great. If you can and you don't want to, also great. I just think, he made some giant leaps.
Yeah. It felt very either or. Like you had to be a mom or you had to have a career and like not both at all.
No. Yeah.
I think it kind of, I don't know how he grew up or whatever. I think at the end of the day, we are all entitled to our own opinions about things, of course. Sure. And so that's fine that he wants to stand up for the things that he believes in. But I also, some of the things, like you were saying, Allison, it was his opinion is the opinion. Yeah. And I just hate that because I feel like there are so many things in the world that are that way today. And so I think you can do both. Like you can be, like for me, I'm really proud of my career and I love what I do and I'm grateful that I get to come to work every day and I like my job. And I also love being a mom and a wife. And so I think you can be both and that's really great. Obviously he's in a way more privileged position as well than any of us, like you covered too. So
yes. I also think like, to single the women out is what he did. But at the same time, it's okay to also be a man and be a stay-at-home dad as well. So feel free to, elaborate on that a little bit. Like, it's not just the women. Like, there's NFL players who are also stay-at-home dads. I think We've talked about the fact that I love TikTok on the podcast before, but Isaac Rochelle, he formerly played for the Colts. He's played for the Las Vegas Raiders, but he is a stay-at-home dad. His wife is the breadwinner. Like,
really? That's awesome.
So that's where it also just felt a little icky for me. But in light of Joel not being with us today, I feel like I should use my good eye for a minute, because that's what he tries to do. But, you know, and this is also in light of the fact that, like, Harrison has not come back out and said, like, let me clarify what I meant, or let me, you know, and that's okay. Like, he doesn't have to. He said what he said, and he may not feel like it needs any additional clarification. But what I would hope that he was trying to say is that, you know, family is important. That regardless of your degree or accomplishments or your job, that, you know, your family is your priority. Like, they will be your legacy, and that should be valued. Definitely. And I can get behind that if that if that's what he was implying. And I also have a hard time with cancel culture. We've talked about that before. Like, people make mistakes and they're human. And like Brooke said, like, we're all entitled to our opinion because he has a bigger platform and he's a celebrity. Like, I think sometimes we hold them to this higher standard that we probably shouldn't, because they're humans like us. You know, we have opinions. We're sitting here talking about it on the podcast, right? Like, and I would hope that nobody would call up and be like, hey, you need to fire those three because they have opinions, right? And that's what people are doing for him. Like, they think the Chiefs should fire him because he made these, you know, whatever statements. And I'm like, it was on his personal time. These are his personal opinions. Like, it is what it is. If you don't like him, like, you don't have to watch him. You don't have to buy his jersey. Like, you know,
well, and I think
things.
too, like, you have to consider the audience that he was speaking to as well. And so I think a lot of the college or the university's probably morals and values are following and encouraged a lot of what he was saying. And so I think that's something to take into consideration as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately Beyonce, the queen, she said it best, because she said, how are we smart enough to make these millions? Strong enough to bear the children. Then get back to business. But at least Harrison knows who runs the world. It's girls.
Our second topic today is a TV Line article titled Scarlett Johansson says she was shocked, angered, and in disbelief after hearing ChatGPT voice that sounds like her. OpenAI is pausing the use of a voice named Sky that is part of a new demo of ChatGPT's 4.0's voice mode. The emotive voice has been called out for sounding a little too similar to Scarlett Johansson's AI character from the 2013 film Her. Johansson herself has now stated she is shocked, angered, and in disbelief, especially after having turned down the offer to voice Sky. OpenAI elaborated further in a blog post, "We believe that AI voices should not deliberately mimic a celebrity's distinctive voice. Sky's voice is not an imitation of Scarlett Johansson, but belongs to a different professional actress using her own natural speaking voice," the company wrote. "To protect their privacy, we cannot share the names of our voice talents." That feels shady.
Yeah, my anonymous source.
Yeah.
It also feels like that person probably would have come out and been like, "Oh no, it's not Scarlett. It was me." Like, and this is the way I talk. Crickets.
Yeah.
We're waiting. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, you're going to want to get credited for your work so you can get more work. So it feels like there wasn't another voice actress behind this. But do you guys think that she has a right to be upset about this? I mean, it's not like they are stealing or like not paying her for work that she did. So what do you guys think about her being upset about this?
I think this is kind of tricky because there's so much about AI that I don't understand still.
Yeah, it's wild.
And probably won't for a long time just as it progresses. But I don't know. I think she has a right to be upset. I think about if my voice, and I'm not a celebrity, I don't get paid for just being who I am and talking. But I think she has a right to be upset. I mean, if my voice was being used and I was in the same career as her, like, I would expect to be compensated for myself being used, whether it is another person or not. I think that needs to be maybe a little more cleared up as well. So I don't know. I thought this was really interesting and hard for me to really have an opinion on because I'm not famous and I'm not super educated on AI. So
yeah. And for me, like AI is just so wild. The fact that this technology even exists, that people can even do that, you know, it's, I mean, I'm ancient here, but that is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
yeah.
Now, I think the biggest part that upsets me about this is they just got done with their, the actors and writers strike because of
the likeness.
wanting to use AI instead of, paying them every single time. And so it's like, really, you're going to turn around? Yeah. So it's just wild to me that they turn around and do this despite, all the work that those actors and writers went through and, well, I mean, not working during that whole time. And then they still get screwed over. It's crazy to me.
It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question is, who would be the first celebrity guest in your very own talk show? Or if you had your own atypical podcast and could have anyone on, who would you have on?
Oh, man. There's so many people that I would like to just sit down and talk to,
Yeah.
Like Brooke mentioned, like, I would love to talk to Taylor Swift and just be like,
lovely.
Girl, what a wild ride you have been on. Like, that would be a delight. I also don't know why I have been obsessed with Reese Witherspoon since like early 2000s. I don't even know. Like, but she's so quirky, but she's also super talented. She's a working mom who likes to embarrass her kids out in public, and I'm here for all of that. So I don't know. I just think both of those ladies would be super fascinating to talk to.
Yeah, that would be awesome. What about you,
You coming on my Taylor Swift podcast?
I will be there. If she is there, no questions asked. I will be there.
Cool.
I don't know. I think this is really tough for me too, but my all-time favorite person in the world is probably Hillary Duff.
Oh yes, I remember this about you.
Yeah. And so I think it would be so cool to sit down. I've followed her since her Lizzie McGuire, Casper Meets Wendy days, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so I kind of already feel like she's my friend. She has no idea who I am, of course. Unfortunately, I still haven't heard back from her from all of those letters that I wrote her from her Pop magazine days. But Tiger Beat. They used to put like the addresses or like P.O. boxes for
now that is just crazy to think about.
Yeah,
anyway.
It really is. Anyway, I just think it would be so lovely to sit down and talk to her. She's had kind of a wild ride in her career as far as like she's been into acting, and she has several albums, and then later on once she became a mom, she's written several books and has several children now. And so I've just kind of walked through all these phases of life alongside her a little bit, it almost feels like. And so I think we could have a lovely time sitting on a talk show and maybe sipping some coffee together.
Yeah, I love that.
What about you, Abby?
I have to go with America's sweetheart, Dolly Parton. I think she would be great to just sit down and talk to. And just like the fact that I've heard her say before that like she obviously doesn't look like that. Like she wears wigs and stuff like that. So I just want to like talk to her and be like, how has no one like figured out who you are, under the wig, under these outfits and stuff, and just getting to talk to her. And, she's just a wonderful person.
I'd be like, do you regret the working 9 to 5? Because sometimes, lady, I wish you would have taken that back.
Yeah. Tell me the story about Jolene. Like,
exactly. I need to know more.
Yep.
That would be awesome.
No, I think it would be great to talk to her. Our last topic today, this is a New York Post article titled Mica Miller's pastor husband claims he tried to raise her from the dead in emotional eulogy. J.P. Miller, a South Carolina pastor whose wife fatally shot herself just days after she filed for divorce, told her memorial service that he visited her body 4 separate times and even tried to raise her from the dead. He opened up about her sudden passing as he delivered a lengthy eulogy to his congregation that some have since slammed as fake and blasphemy. Mica's death was ruled a suicide by the Robeson County Medical Examiner, but her family has since pleaded for cops to deeply investigate her demise amid allegations her husband had abused and groomed her. Mica had contacted police a handful of times and made all sorts of allegations against her husband in the lead up to her death. So, Allison, if you could, I feel like you know the most about this case. So just give a summary about like what happened.
Okay, so Mica and John Paul Miller were married in 2017, and Mica filed for legal separation last October, so 2023. The case was dismissed in February after the couple agreed to try to reconcile, but Mica Miller again filed for separation just this past April 15th. Then JP Miller was served with the separation papers on April 25th, so 10 days later. 2 days after that, April 27th, Mica Miller was found dead of what investigators determined was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The sheriff's office said it had received a 911 call from a woman who said she was going to kill herself and wanted her family to be able to find her body. But no autopsy, toxicology analysis, or gunshot residue tests were performed on her body. So at the conclusion of a full-length, upbeat sermon on Sunday, April 28th, the next day after Mica's death, J.P. Miller asked his congregation to stand for an announcement, and then this is what he said, and this is a quote. We'll probably drop we can link the video, but it says, "We're not going to do an altar call today," he said. "Instead, I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to make an announcement, and after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building." He talked to his congregants, and he said, or asked them to continue to come to church and serve and give for the next little bit because he was going to be taking a little break. His break may be a few days, a few weeks. He didn't know, he said, but that he got a call late last night that his wife had passed away. He told them that it was self-inflicted up in North Carolina and that they would have a funeral service on Sunday. But then he goes on to say, y'all, and this is a direct quote too, y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. I'm sure there'll be more details to come. So in police reports and affidavits for the separation, there are a lot of allegations that JP had slashed her tires, caused other damage to her vehicle, including installing like a GPS device under it, had affairs with women during their marriage, was physically, emotionally abusive, moved their assets into other people's names to avoid them being part of the divorce, and on and on and on and on and on. So social media has kind of like taken this and run with it in a lot of different ways. There are people who say it's a conspiracy and that she didn't kill herself and that the 911 call was made using AI generated voice detection software, and just a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of just people who are kind of just in disbelief that like this was it, that it even got to this point, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that the police hadn't stepped in with all of the times that she had called and asked for help. And so just a lot of sadness. And then her family is just, still trying to get answers, and I don't know, so it's a lot.
We've been talking about this in the office for like the last month. It's so sad on just so many levels. Like I think about how like for anyone to get to the point where they feel like taking their own life is the only answer, like just how dark her life must have been. And then I also just think about the people who have been going to church where he pastors, and I'm so sad for them as well, just in all of this, because I'm sure that they did not see this coming. And I don't know, there's just I hate the whole thing. It's a whole mess, and like I feel for her family that's dealing with this, and they're the ones trying to push police to reopen the case and all of that. It's, I don't know, it's just such a scary situation, and like so many unanswered questions right now.
What are your thoughts, Brooke?
I think I have so many thoughts that I could untangle about the whole situation, but I also kind of wonder, even if he wasn't the one to actually pull the trigger, if you will, I think about all of the information we have about him grooming her even as like a teenager up until they got married, and kind of the manipulation that went into their relationship. And so at what point does the police, or do the police start to investigate, okay, even if this was self-inflicted, like where's the evidence saying, you know, maybe he was manipulating her to do this?
Yeah.
I could see that. But also, when I was reading the article and watched a video about him talking about trying to raise her from the dead, and then thinking he saw her at the mall, but then it ended up being her sister or something. And I'm just like thinking, this is wild as far as, is this man grieving, or is he struggling like mentally as well? Because even though we have so much evidence, it looks like, or conspiracies pointing to him, I think about the other side of the coin. If he's not truly involved in this, everybody is going to have a different way of grieving. And so I just think about him as well, if he is innocent in this, and his feelings of grief and what he's moving through. I've never been through something like this, so I can't really speak for him on behalf of what he should or shouldn't be saying. And I can only imagine losing a spouse would take a toll on you mentally, and just
but don't you think, like, if you were the pastor, you'd be like, today we're showing a video, or like, let me just
cancel services for the day.
Like, let me just stand up there and let's, you know, I don't know, or not stand up there. Like, I'll have my assistant go up here and say, like, but
it's
to
super
give like
uncomfy.
a full and then ask people not to talk about it, where clearly they're going to be like, what?
Yeah, I wonder if the volunteers and the rest of the staff knew at that point.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Surely someone would have talked him out of doing the talk if they had known ahead of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's where, yes, like, and I agree with what you said. Like, everybody grieves differently. I think for me, what's hard to like wrap my head around the fact of him grieving is like, he's already had a girlfriend, and that like, that's where his alibi even is for the time of her death, is that they were driving back from a sporting event together and have been caught on, you know, cameras and stuff. So, you know, good for him. I don't think he killed her, you know, by any stretch, really, in the like you said, like pulling the trigger. But I don't know that he's grieving, because it appears that, you know, he's kind of already had moved on from the beginning. So it's wild.
It is.
And I just really feel for the people in the congregation who are seeing all this stuff come out. Like, they probably didn't know that he had a girlfriend during this time. They didn't know the abuse, like the way he treated Mica and all of that. And all of this is coming out. And so those people are probably hurting. Maybe they're to the point of even like deconstructing their faith because this person that they looked up to did these terrible things. And so
it's super confusing. Anytime somebody that you have looked up to doesn't, you know, turn out to be exactly who you thought they should be, you have to question yourself, like, how did I not see this? Or, you know, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with religion or the, you know, church, or, you know, all these things. I think it definitely is going to leave a lot of people with more questions than they know how to process.
Yeah. And I think there's just a lot of people who are searching, you know, for answers, and maybe trying out different churches, and something like this, they hear about this and it's just going to shove them further away. And I don't know what to say about that, but pastors need to do better. That's all I can say.
In general, people need to do better. Like, if you saw that she needed help, like, how, you know, instead of just being like, yep, well, that's not a great situation. Like, and I don't know, I'm not saying that there's anything that anybody could have done, because, you know, a lot of times people keep those things pretty quiet because you don't, you know, want to be embarrassed or have a, you know, cause a scandal kind of a thing. And so, you know, people may not have known all that she was going through. But I think for me, it makes me more aware, I guess, a little bit, or, you know, hopefully more aware of asking more questions, or just showing up for people in ways instead of just saying, oh, my thoughts and prayers are with you, you know, like, No, how can I actually be with you? How can I actually help you? So I don't know.
Yeah. Try to be there for people. That's the button on this topic, because we could go on for hours about this.
Yeah.
Sad. Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics or questions, you can send those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Atypical Talk Pod. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.